If you'd like to sign up to be a paid snow shoveler, you can go to any DSNY garage from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. tomorrow on Sunday.
America, that woman that just documented what it takes to shovel snow in New York City under socialist leadership.
It really is remarkable that he would think you need 5 forms of ID to shovel snow.
The same mayor who requires 5 forms of identification to shovel snow has spent his entire political career claiming that requiring 1 form of ID to vote is racist.
Less than 2 months into his first term, and Mayor Mamdani is already facing financial blows.
He just proposed cutting $22 million from the NYPD budget and canceling 5,000 new officer hires during a staff crisis. What is up, guys? Tyson DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Let me show you what happens when you elect a Democratic Socialist who thinks government is about identity politics instead of keeping people safe and snow-free. Let me start with Zohran Mamdani's budget proposal because his priorities obviously tell you everything you need to know about how socialists govern.
The mayor is proposing cutting $22 million in NYPD funding, as well as end the face hiring of 5,000 new officers.
$22 million from NYPD, 5,000 new officers, canceled, finito, burrito, and this is happening while the city is buried under snow. Businesses are collapsing, and the department is already losing 250 to 300 officers per month to retirement and resignations. But remember, Mamdani needs $30 an hour for emergency snow shovelers with 5 forms of ID, blood tests, and documents to adopt their unborn child. Just not 5,000 new cops with training authority to actually protect the city. So the NYPD is hemorrhaging officers, up to 300 officers per month, and Zohran Mamdani's solution is to cancel recruiting and cut funding. This is absolute sabotage. And when the union president says you can't try to balance budgets on the backs of police officers and retirees, Mamdani just shrugs it off because in his socialist worldview, cops are the problem, not the solution. Now watch how Zohran Mamdani handles the storm death toll, because this is where his priorities become crystal clear.
19 outdoor deaths, 19. That's a really high number. There were 7 indoor deaths as well, potentially linked to bad heating or no heating at all. Did you change your strategy?
So as of now, we have no deaths reported from this blizzard from being outside or in a public area. And we have also been looking to utilize every single method of outreach that we have. We have more than 500 homeless outreach workers who have been traversing the 5 boroughs, looking to connect homeless New Yorkers with services and support. And what we've also learned is the tools that were effective over the course of the prolonged cold period, again, a historic period of sub-freezing conditions, those are ones we've employed from the very first day of our response to this one. I'll give you one example. A number of those New Yorkers who lost their lives, the preliminary indications came that it was from an overdose-related death.
The reporter says 19 outdoor deaths during the storm. And instead of addressing why people froze to death in America's richest city, Zohran Mamdani immediately, this is the classic move, pivots to, well, actually, a number of those were overdoses, not storm deaths. You know what causes outdoor overdose deaths during a blizzard? Being homeless and having nowhere warm to go. So whether they froze or overdosed, they died because your city failed them. But sure, let's split hairs here about the cause of death while cutting the police budget.
We worked with our overdose prevention centers to keep them open, not just during the weekday hours that they would typically have, but over the course of the weekend nights. So
he's celebrating that overdose prevention centers stayed open during the weekend. That's Zohran's victory. People still died outside, but at least they had access to places to safely overdose. This, my friends, is what passes as governance in socialist New York City. Minimize the death count by reclassifying the causes, then celebrate that you kept drug use centers open while people froze. Now, let me show you what happens when a socialist mayor spends 2 months attacking police while cutting their budget. This doesn't look like a snowball fight to me. This is an organized assault on law enforcement disguised as quote-unquote winter fun. Watch how many people are specifically targeting these officers. One of the officers got almost like a black eye from getting pelted with snow in his face. Watch how they mob around these cops. Watch how nobody fears any consequences here. This is disgusting. You know, why are these people so comfortable attacking NYPD officers? Because the mayor announced he's cutting their funding and canceling their reinforcements. When your boss publicly declares that you are not a priority, do not be surprised when the public treats you like you're not worthy of respect. And the absolute worst part, these same people will scream about police brutality if any of these officers defend themselves. They'll throw projectiles at cops, then cry, boo-hoo, victim, when there are consequences. And Mamdani will side with the snowball throwers because in his worldview, law enforcement is always the oppressor. New York, this is what you get when you elect someone from the Democratic Socialists of America. Police become targets. Citizens lose protection, and chaos gets rebranded as community expression. Now let's go back to the snowball shoveling bureaucracy, because this is where Mamdani's hypocrisy reaches peak absurdity.
Need 2 forms of ID? What happens if I only have one?
You need 2 forms to sign up.
One from this side and one from this side.
It's so interesting because they want to tell us we don't need ID to vote, but we need 2 forms of ID to shovel, you know? Do I need to print the photos out? I have to print those.
Yeah.
What if I don't have a printer?
Let me give you a list of what you need to shovel snow in New York City. You need 2 forms of government-issued ID, copies of both of those IDs, social security card, 2 passport-style photos, printed, not digital, proof that you can work legally in America. Now, let me give you a list of what you need to vote in New York City. Nothing. 0. Nada. You can show up without an ID, sign an affidavit, but if you want to shovel snow for $30 an hour during a declared emergency, you need documentation that proves your identity, your citizenship, your work authorization, and you need to provide biometric photos, blood tests, and documents signing over your unborn child for adoption. Those are all exaggerations, but you do need a lot to shovel snow in New York. The argument against voter ID is always the freaking same. It's too burdensome. I can't find my birth certificate. I don't know where my ID is. Gavin Newsom, I can't read. It affects marginalized communities. Not everyone has access to identification, but apparently those same marginalized communities can get 2 forms of ID, a social security card, and printed passport photos when there's a blizzard and they're gonna pay you $30 an hour. And suddenly, miraculously, accessing identification isn't a civil rights violation. It is a prerequisite for employment. So which is it, Zohran Mamdani? Is requiring ID racist, or is it not? Because your administration seems to think that it depends on whether you're protecting election integrity or you're just verifying snow shovelers for $30 an hour. Now, let me connect this to why NYC businesses are collapsing and why Zohran Mamdani's priorities are destroying New York City.
I personally arrested Jose Ibarra for endangering the welfare of a child. A few months later, I saw his face again in the news after he viciously murdered Laken Riley. I did my job. I put him in custody. The system failed. No detainer, no accountability, no deportation, and an innocent American life was taken.
The system should have worked. ICE should have been notified. A detainer should have been in place. Deportation order should have followed that. Instead, Ibarra was released. No ICE notification, no consequences. And months later, he murdered Laken Riley in Georgia. That's not a failure of one cop or one precinct. That's sanctuary city policies working exactly as designed.
New York City spends up to $3 million for every inch of snow removal. But where to get the funds for the big plow, and what if there's another one that heads into New York City? Right now, the city has a projected $5.4 billion budget shortfall in newly minted Mayor Zohran Mamdani's plan to raise taxes to fill the hole.
And while sanctuary policies protect criminals who should be deported, businesses are obviously fleeing, not because of taxes alone, not because of regulation alone, because the entire governance model prioritizes ideology over safety, protection over enforcement, and virtue signaling over result. When you're a business owner and you watch the mayor cut police funding while defending sanctuary policies that released a child endangerment suspect who later committed murder, you start calculating exit strategies. When you see officers getting pelted with snowballs while your mayor celebrates overdose prevention centers, you absolutely instantly realize this city doesn't value order. That is why, my friends, businesses are leaving. That is why property values are collapsing. That is why anyone with options is heading for the exits. Now, let me show you Mamdani's actual priorities, because what he does reveals more than what he says here.
My shovel is outdated, but they have another one waiting for me. New model. They're going to hold on to it for me. I have to come back with the proper attire.
Your shovel is outdated. Come back at 8 p.m. instead of 8 a.m., even though the mayor told you to come at 8 a.m. Bring 2 printed photos because digital apparently doesn't work. Make sure you have copies of your ID, not just the originals. This is what bureaucrats do, my friends, when they have no real management skills. They create crazy processes. They add requirements. They micromanage irrelevant details while ignoring the catastrophic failures like police staffing shortages and storm death tolls. Mamdani can tell you exactly what paperwork you need to shovel snow, but he can't tell you why 19 people died outdoors during a storm. He can list 5 forms of required identification for manual labor, but he opposes requiring one form of ID to vote. He can keep overdose prevention centers open, but he can't. He absolutely cannot keep officers from being assaulted with snowballs. Those are Zohran Mamdani's priorities. Paperwork over people, processes over protection, ideology over competence. America, New York City's Democratic Socialist mayor just gave you an absolute masterclass in what matters in the radical left. 5 forms of ID to shovel snow, but voter ID is racist. Cut police funding during a staff crisis, then act shocked when officers get assaulted by snowballs. The NYPD officer who arrested Lincoln Riley's killer watched the system release a criminal who went on to murder an American college student. Businesses are calculating their exit strategy while Zohran Mamdani defends sanctuary city policies. Somewhere in New York City, a woman with an outdated shovel and 4 forms of identification is waiting until 8 p.m. to help clear snow because bureaucracy matters more than result. This is what you voted for, New York. The next time someone tells you democratic socialism is about compassion and equality, show them New York City's emergency snow shoveler application and then ask them to explain the logic. The city is collapsing. Cops are under attack. People died in a storm. And Mamdani, he's solving paperwork problems. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe. And as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.